Hello and welcome to another Best Junglers video, this one for patch 11.9, and I don't normally make these so close together. However, Riot have decided to take Hecarim out back and do things to him that if I described would cause this video to be demonetized. It was that violent. As such, when the king falls, there's always a battle for power. Riot threw some other changes into the mix as well, so we will go over the best junglers for the current iteration of the game. And yes, I have made a video about Rumble on my gameplay channel, and we will talk about him at the end in the high elo section. And as always, if you do enjoy, please consider leaving a like and of course subscribing. I have fancy infographics of this on my Patreon along with coaching sessions. And while you're all looking to stash LP like a currency, Opinion Outpost wants you to know that there is an easy way for you to also make extra money for free. Like the opinion on the Scuttlecrab's degenerate existence, you can share your opinion about numerous topics simply by signing up, completing surveys, testing products, and making money even while you're gray screen. Receive your just rewards through PayPal or Amazon gift certificates to buy that sweet RP to grab more skins. To start earning money for free, click the link in the description below. And here we go, first up on the S tier page, Morgana. They buffed her clear bonus damage to monsters to 200% initially. This was a mistake, and therefore they have now made it 185%. And that is still kind of a mistake. She farms faster than anyone else now. She has a stun that roots you in place for the 200 years advertised on Riot's website. The Black Shield denies anyone being able to do anything to her in those early levels. And then of course she can press R and everyone gets chained to her like a bondage machine. And her pool does an unnatural amount of damage and she can heal from her spells. Therefore, she farms the fastest, she can get to crabs the fastest, she can remove the shields. Her ganks are solid, although they're not the best. She just outscales simply by the cadence of her farming and the fact that if you want to turbo invade her jungle, she can very easily disengage with that Dark Binding. She sits atop the win rates, the play rates, and seems like we've replaced Hecarim's banning with the Morgana banning. 50% and rising, just no one wants to face it. Next up we have Shaco, the delusional people who think this champion has been bad for 5 years, despite the fact his win rate, play rate, and ban rate all suggest otherwise. As I said in the last video, multiple one-tricks are getting very high LP gains in Challenger and in Grandmaster, and while he does have issues in that arena, for the majority of you, if you're looking to get Master Tier and you play Shaco, you should have literally no issue controlling games, sneaking behind bottom lanes who don't respect you, and if we were to write a guide about Shaco's build versatility from a mythic point of view as well as AD vs AP, it would be longer than Aphelios' ability descriptions combined. This is a great cheese/carry jungler for solo queue. Now go forth, my demon hellspawn players, it is your time. As usual, we have Elise. You want me to remove her? I can't, because she simply does everything that anyone would ever want in the early game. And now with PTA, Lichbane, Nash's Tooth variations, you can have some split push, you can have some amp damage for your teammates. How nice. You're also hyper mobile and can assassinate anyone that displeases you. The ban rate is actually kinda decently high overall, the play rate's around 7%, and she's simply enjoying that the farming experience was reduced a few weeks ago. She's enjoying the fact that the Turbo Chem Tank Sprint Boys are now nerfed to the ground. And if those experience changes do come through next patch, you know, nerf it a bit, buff some catch-up experience, at least we'll be having even more fun. On the subject of fun, Fiddlesticks ensures that the enemy AD carry has none. They deserve it, they complain too much anyway. But the thing is, in a meta that's kind of becoming a hybrid approach to farming and scaling and a little bit of that ganking and objective control, Fiddlesticks remains one of the best, like Morgana, at making sure whatever experience is in the jungle is theirs. If you gank, they will counter jungle you. They will get 6, they will outscale you, they will outfarm you, they can solo dragons, and then he can hippity hoppity, your shutdown is my property, because that's what he's gonna do. Even if you're ahead, he will find that nook, he will find that cranny, he will find the angle simply to get off an amazing counter gank or game-changing mid-game ult, and your lead is gone, poof, vanished, he wins. I honestly think he's one of the best junglers in the game just simply because of that fear factor and how heavily he scales and can control teamfights later on. Next up, we have the bug life Kha'zix. He's not exactly in the same realm as some of these supremely other OP champions, but he seems to do extremely well. When they're on my team, they kind of force ganks and just walk and die, but if you're a good Kha'zix who understands how to farm, you know, like a Gurren, you know how to invade, get those isolated fights, make sure the enemy jungler doesn't really have a good time, and then of course you need to understand how to teamfight in a variety of situations, moving in and out of spells. A good Kha'zix will always ensure that snowball potential is fully activated. A bad one will be down in experience, have bad KDAs, and not be able to really kill or do anything. On that note, if you prefer to simply farm and have a spell shield and have a long-range nuke bomb, then Nocturne is your thing. I was gonna say guy, but I mean look at him. Bring forth the darkness of Mordor simply by out-farming, out-rotating, and ensuring that level 6 spike is used on the right target. Get those free kills, get those dragons, essentially the map control aspect, and you can of course go fighter. You're seeing that in pro play a lot as well. High elo, they love the stride breaker, broken item. And now you simply just don't die, whereas before you would go in and you could get blown up. Now that's not possible. You have multiple ways to stick to targets and ensure your fear tether goes through. And he's just really in such a solid overall spot at the moment with decent matchups and nothing really that's too meta that makes him feel inferior. And Nunu is that way as well. They buffed the Sunfire, which means with that item in the Balmy Cinder, you are now microwaving enemies at a much higher level. Nothing changes from your game style. You still control the rivers. You can still spam gank, level 2 gank. You still have the best objective control. The only thing that changed now is you do more damage when you're in the midst of these teamfights and skirmishes, and that's not a minor buff. It went from 100% to 150%, and both the Yeti and the boy are enjoying that bonus burn damage. So now you can peel while killing. Pretty good. Finally, I had a long think and debate about this. I didn't know who exactly to put. Yes, Evelyn is performing extremely well at the moment. Volibear is obviously a go-to. We've got Diana with a very similar pick rate to the Lee Sin. But if I was going to put Diana, a medium difficulty champion with a lower percentage pick rate and lower win rate, I would have to put Lee Sin instead, because that 50% win rate, 16% pick rate, high skill cap, enjoying the snowball potential, the Eclipse build really taking off, that 20% reduction on his E in the previous patch, all of those have made him look absolutely sublime from this position. Next patch, if those jungle experience nerfs and changes come through, and they adjust Morgana again, Lee Sin's gonna shoot up the tier list, so definitely keep an eye on it. However, Lee Sin is looking mighty fine. Right, and now we jump into the A tier page, and we're gonna start off with Evelyn. Simply put, she is performing extremely well at the moment. Good win rate, decent pick rate. The ban rate is kind of high, that's just because of her camo and ability to annihilate squishies. But the reason I put her here versus on the S tier page in terms of a raw sense is I love junglers that can sneak dragons. I love junglers that can split push. I love junglers that have versatility options depending on the game states. While Evelyn is a great counter ganker, you are not looking to force ganks early. You simply outfarm, you outscale, you eventually will one-shot someone, but you just don't always have that same kind of map control as the other junglers that dominate the meta. That being said, once you have a lead though, and you're a camouflage and they don't control ward, you just become this floating question mark at any point in the game, and you can really take over in that sense. Next up, we have Volibear. He rises just a little bit because obviously Morgana and Diana are kind of strong into him statistically. You want a Q? She binds you. Your Q resets, she black shields the stun. But now at least her farming isn't so obscene that you also get outscaled in that sense. Overall, I'm just really happy because yes, they nerfed Chem Tank outright. You're noticing no one's really using it up until Volibear here. However, he has a lot of versatility in the mythics as well. But now remember what state he was in when he was buffed? Now imagine they nerfed Chem Tank and Deadman's. We'd be crying a lot of tears. Instead now, the win rates are still looking good. We have great early game potential, supreme dragon control. You can dive anyone you like. You do have weaknesses that can be exploited. He seems to be in a really solid place, neither OP nor weak, and I'm okay with that. Next, we have Diana. They nerfed her passive attack speed after spell usage, which affects her clears, it affects her trading, specifically the Conqueror build, of course. Maybe I am underselling her just a little bit, or maybe overselling, I'm not sure at this point. The pick rate is second only to Lee Sin, which means that win rate at around 50, just under 50%, is still very good for carrying and climbing in solo queue. You just have to get used to the shift in those passive nerfs from this recent patch. However, I still think she will perform extremely well in the jungle, and I hope they do continue to support her in this role. Rek'Sai. Also, like Elise, enjoying the meta, enjoying the shift into a bit more ganking focus, not as much scaling and farming. If again those changes go through next patch, look for Rek'Sai to really climb up just as much. But really, very few downsides. Obviously struggles into certain matchups in that she gets outscaled. Her win conditions need to be satisfied at that mid-game point. But overall, performing extremely well and looking solid as always. And no, that wasn't an intentional pun, just a happy accident. I am reluctantly putting Udyr here because he is still kinda strong in the higher elo circles. However, by all metrics, he is really just a solid A tier jungler if you look at the stats and his performance relative to other strong junglers. And even though he kinda does what he always did, just with a lot less damage and a lot less speed, it shows you why he's getting a rework. If he just doesn't outstat and basically out DPS you from raw numbers, his kit is inherently useless if he doesn't have those windows of accessibility through itemization, through runes like Chem Tank and Phase Rush. Next up, we have Shin Xiao, and he is really performing very well. Counters Volibear nicely, counters Fiddlesticks, counters Warwick, statistically does well into those matchups. And most notably, actually has a decent win rate against Morgana, at least as good as you can have it. as well as Shaco actually, which means even though he inherently isn't as strong himself in terms of farming, in terms of ganking, he does do well against certain strong junglers, and that's the reason for his increase in win rate. And it's also important to note that junglers relative to the best in the game can go up and down depending on who is sitting at the top. So it's not always, one nerf affects only one champion, it can affect the entire metascape. But this champion has been doing well for a while, and the video of my gameplay shows you the lengths you can go through literally with that WE combo. Like Nunu, Zachary enjoys Sunfire. Zachary enjoys Sunfire buffs and buffs directly to himself. Now he's microwaving people from the longest range. In fact, he's Eing from such a long range that those microwaves are redshifting, which is weird because you'd think your jungler would communicate via radio that in fact he is ganking bottom lane, but you never know, and then you just die. I don't enjoy it, no one enjoys it, but the players of Zac do enjoy it because you can control the map just like with Nunu, long range gankings, and if you farm well enough and healthy enough, which he can do now, your blobbies will save you from an all-out apocalypse, and you should enjoy some good wins if you know how to hit your E and then of course disrupt and chain together with your immense CC. Remember how to teamfight as a tank, when to peel, when to engage? This is the biggest separating factor between good beefcakes and bad beefcakes. Finally, we could have had Ivan, we could have had Talia. They are doing well, but only 1% pick rate, more really niche case picks. We could have had Viego, decent pick rate, but the win rate isn't so hot. So I'm gonna throw in the Kayn here, not performing the best, but Blue Kayn enjoys all the squishies running around and obliterates them. Ras just got buffed, nice AD ratio increase. And if you're gonna see more Warwicks, Nunus, Zacs, or anything with a Sunfire, then Ras is gonna come up big, control games for you and scale. Just remember, you need to become a champion, and you're not gonna become a champion by AFK farming. Look to counter jungle, counter gank, and get in lane so you can get your juicy orbs. And onto the low elo page, you will see a lot of the regular numbers we have just talked about. Morgana, Shaco, Yi, Diana, Volley, Nocturne, Warwick, and Mumu. The most notable one here, of course, is Master Yeetus with their Duskblade build. Unhealthy, unnatural. I actually did a gameplay. May Odin please forgive me for that, but it's important to cover all champions in the game. But the most notable one is Warwick. Obviously, people of this channel know that my original tutorials all centered around the rework Warwick, the Evelyn, and I decided to bust out the Week 99 strategy of Tiamat Sunfire, and it was hilarious. Definitely a really nice buff to the champion. Still has his issues, however, if someone can get Master Tier Plus in Korea every single season with him, then I'm pretty sure most of us can use him to at least get to Diamond, and in the low elo case, yes, get to Gold. Don't sleep on Mr. Wick. Now for the high elo page, and I mentioned Shaco being good in this arena. Yeah, his pick rate is of course not as high as the others that are technically the best in high elo, but it is a 52% win rate on a decent pick rate. I don't think you should sleep on that. However, the core champions that are being used in high elo, as I said in the last video, it's difficult to pin down the best ones because you can't always use win rates as an indicator due to the low sample size. Therefore, pick rates and ban rates are heavily included in the assessment. Morgana, Lee Sin sitting at the top, I don't think there's any questions about that. Nidalee is still one of the best. I just did a video on her as well if you're looking to improve that gameplay. However, Rumble is the secret sauce. Really doesn't perform that well in Plat below, or in even Diamond it doesn't actually do well. But as you would have seen on the gameplay on my secondary channel, oh boy is this thing not okay. You're seeing a lot of the people come for MSI use that on their IGNs. It just simply farms fast, 1v1s well. That incineration Q is just actually insane. The E buff not only stacks, but also now provides magic shred. So what exactly are you gonna do against this champion when he tries to fight you with those adjustments, as well as his passive adjust, which has now percentage max HP, just for the hell of it. And yeah, they nerfed him in the mid lane, but really didn't change anything in the jungle. Look for this to be a contested pick in high elo and in MSI. I do agree on that. In solo queue, if you're a D2+, one of the best picks you can actually pick up, provided you know what you're doing. And that ultimate damage, as I said, level 6, level 11, it's too much, man. He just doesn't have weaknesses. And then you'll notice Diana's still there, high pick rate, win rate isn't the best, but the Kindred buffs seem to have finally done something 2 patches in a row, at least in the high elo arena. Good win rates, performing very well. Keep an eye on this pick also in terms of counter matchups, and using that ranged advantage against any sort of tank junglers that might arise due to the Sunfire buffs. And there you have it, the updated new meta. Finally, the chem tank abusers, Hecarim and Udyr are dead. Rest in pieces, everyone rejoice. I think the galaxy is celebrating the same way as when the second Death Star exploded. I'm excited, I hope you're excited. New meta is upon us. Keep an eye on the patch notes for further changes. Thank you very much for watching. Head to the gameplay for all your favorite champion breakdowns. Don't forget to like, share, and comment if you enjoy and learn something. Keep your beards overheated, and as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.